Oh, it didn't work. There it is.
Hey! Take your tickets, take your seats. It's time for Popcorn Spoilers. I'm Dylan Button.
I'm Ryan Betson, and I tried to make the keyboard do the thing, and it didn't do the thing.
And we're on our road to the Oscars still. Now, we're talking about two movies this week. It's the, as you called it, the big hitters, the big movie stars. A-listers. So we've got The Post, directed by Steven Spielberg. And
Starring Tom Hanks, Meryl Streep,
yes,
and that guy from Small Soldiers.
There's a guy from Tommy Lee Jones.
No, the nerdy guy that created the Gorgonites.
Phil Hartman.
Yeah, he was there.
David Cross.
High Velocity Games.
And Phantom Thread, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson.
Big name. Daniel Day-Lewis. Some other chick. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start with The Post.
Okay, go.
Alright, so I'm just going to read out my synopsis.
Oh, no paper today.
No.
But yeah, Velocity Games is joining us. How are you, my friend? Thank you for stopping by.
Hey, man. And or lady. So, the synopsis for the Post.
As far as you know it.
This is as it is. So, yeah, pretty much sums it up. A cover-up that spanned 4 US presidents pushed the country's first female newspaper publisher and a hard-driving editor to join an unprecedented battle between the press and the government. That sounds much more concise and exciting.
Yeah, it does sound much better than the other ones.
So the movie, like you said, is directed by Steven Spielberg, who did, I don't know,
a couple of films. He's got a small career. Some dinosaur movie, robot movie,
there was one
alien
with
movie.
the guy with the hat and the cord and the
cord.
fish. Finding something like that. Anyway, so the Spielberg,
Chomps or something, was it?
Tom Hanks. So this is probably the 5th collaboration between Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks after Saving Private Ryan, The Terminal, Catch Me If You Can, Bridge of Spies, and then probably this one. Yeah, and it stars Meryl Streep. First collaboration with Meryl Streep, the big streeper. Meryl Streep, the stripper.
The old Meryl
Streep, probably the greatest living actress of our generation.
Yeah, without a doubt. Certainly up there.
No, I haven't seen The Incredibles trailer 2.
Velocity Games asked, did you guys see The Incredibles 2 trailer yet? No, I'm not watching it because I'm going to see the movie anyway. So I'm living in that sweet no spoilers territory right now.
There was a time when I was going to be like, well, when is it going to be set? Is it going to be set like present day where they're adults? Well, yeah, Jack's still a baby, so I guess it's the same.
Yeah. As far as I'm aware, it's directly after.
So The Post is about, in my mind, it's about the Washington Post, which is a newspaper publication exists to this day, but this is set in the 1970s, early 1970s, during the Vietnam War, however you want to say it. And essentially, it's about Meryl Streep's character, and her father created the paper, then it went to her husband, and then it went to her, and now she's running the newspaper. But it was waning, so she's trying to get investors from other...
So she's looking... in order to keep the paper going, she is selling...
stocks in it?
Yeah, she's making the company go public.
Exactly. It was a private family-owned company before. While at the same time, hard-hitting Ben, played by Tom Hanks, is the head editor.
Editor-in-chief, yeah.
Editor-in-chief of the newspaper. And at the time, the secret Pentagon papers come out from a guy who steals the papers and photocopies them and sends them to the New York Times. Thank you very much. Which reveal that the US government and at least 3 to 4 presidents, I think it said, have been funding or perpetuating or involved heavily in the Vietnam War, and knowing that they can't win it but still sending troops in anyway.
Knowing that it was a lost cause
for a long time. And it's controversial. The government, this is when people used to believe in America and the American way, and this was when the 60s and 70s were a turbulent time where everyone was against the regime and the man for these very reasons, that they're lying to the people. So the New York Times, thank you, published the first details of it, and then Nixon, the president at the current time, puts an indictment on them to say that if you report anything else, you'll be under legal issue, you'll go to court, and you could essentially go to prison for that. So it's about the conflict between a couple of days, I reckon, between the Washington Post getting their hands on the paper and much more, the Pentagon Papers and many more, and whether or not they should print it because it's in the name of the freedom of speech and that the people should know, or whether or not they risk their lives and their jobs and their careers and their reputations and their investors and their money and their lifestyle to possibly go to prison for telling the truth, and what control the government should have over freedom of speech and the public eye, and where the lines are blurred. Yeah, so this movie really sort of hits in terms of when we talk about Oscar movies, there's always certain threads they hit. There's the war movie, there's the there's this movie. Like, this is the social commentary movie. This could not be more about the Trump administration unless they said the word Trump administration. Didn't they? No. The Trump. President Trump. Yeah, I mean, again, like we were talking about Darkest Hour, I'm not a big politics guy. I got, the news feeds from like E-Weekly and MammaMia.com. I'm like, oh, so-and-so did this in the media. Sylvester Stallone retired at 71. That's where my mindset is. So I'm not very political at all. But seeing these kind of movies gets me in the mindset of that. The other thing I love is I love smart people doing smart things. So things like The West Wing or Apollo 13, where it's like experts in their field working hard to solve a problem that's never happened before. And they're in a situation where they're down to the minute and they have to come together and utilize the human spirit and the human mind to overcome this as a team. I love that shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. Every time I see things like a horror bomb, like people who are in high positions of management and things like that, or even like when I complained about movie directors making shitty movies when they got millions of dollars and at the height of their game, your job is to make movies, you get paid $1 million to do it, you must be worth $1 million, and they make shit like Batman v Superman. So you know what I mean? Like, these are the people at the A game under pressure and the effort that goes into it. And I love the romanticized idea that you don't see much more, and this movie very much focuses on it. What it takes to make a newspaper. Dude, because this is what I said to you like 2 days ago. I'm like, I personally romanticize journalism. I think journalism is so cool. And it's kind of sort of the reason why I got into games media, which is where entertainment media, where we are now. Except like watching this movie going, man, what we do is chump change. Like, it's barely fucking anything. Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. Like, this movie is, in modern day, people look for things, bravery and things like that. You can go to war and things like that. There are wars at the moment, but back in the World War I, World War II, you're fighting for your country, you're doing the right thing. That's true bravery. Whereas in everyday life or mundane work situations, you don't really see that. And this is a situation where they really were brave people to do this, like standing up against the government and standing up against your beliefs and putting your family and your friends and yourself in jeopardy, your co-workers, for a better cause, and making a stand, because this would be the first time that I think they said since the Constitution that the government would impede on what could be printed in the newspaper and what could be said. And they were like, we're going to take a stand. And Tom Hanks is the the editor-in-chief that's completely for that. And then there's Bradley Whitford, who is like an investor, who's all like, no, do this. And there was, what's his name with the glasses that they kept referring to on the like 8-way call that they did, or 6-way call. That was pretty cool. And then Meryl Streep's in the middle of it. So it's Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks. Do you think that they gave Tom Hanks A-list, Meryl Streep A-list performances? Or could it have been someone else?
I think Tom Hanks, Tom Hanks I think did great. I love Tom Hanks. So
Who doesn't love Tom Hanks?
He came in and he killed it. Now my Meryl Streep on the other hand, I think he's like, I think I'm at a point with her where I'm just like, yes, she's done the good. And she did good. So like, do I think it's Best Actress nominated worthy? Probably not.
Tom Hanks, Best Actor?
Did he get nominated? No, he didn't get nominated, did he?
I don't know.
No, I didn't know he didn't. Because I did check that. It was one of the first things I checked. It was like, oh, no, he didn't get nominated. Like, looking at Meryl Streep, who is a phenomenal actress, and I think she did really good here. But like, when you look over and then you look at, what's his face?
Gary Oldman?
Gary Oldman. I'm like, that is a Best Actor nomination right there. And then over here, I'm like, it's Meryl Streep, but with like glasses and a grey wig.
Well, they weren't phoning it in, but they didn't do anything incredible. Like, could have had somebody else in the role. I don't know if it would have been the same movie.
It would have been the same movie. Like Meryl Streep did bring some cool to it. She did bring something like the little mannerisms and stuff that I liked. That I think any other actress wouldn't be able to bring that sort of the nuances that she would have from her years of experience. I think she was great that way. So something as simple as when she's sitting there and having the breakfast with Tom Hanks, and she's the boss. And she's trying to get up in his shit, but she's still quite intimidated by it because she's like, I'm bringing up a topic I'm not quite comfortable with. And then throughout the movie, you sort of see her become a bit more powerful, a bit more stronger, a bit more confident in her role. Because, spoilers, as the show suggests, she becomes the big owner, big chief operating officer person of the Washington Post because her father gave it to her husband, as you mentioned, and her husband committed suicide. So any reason she's there by circumstance.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Because she sort of was quite content with not, running it. And then as you mentioned, she in a very, very good scene with her and Alison Brie, who was playing her daughter. They're talking about how I never had to hold a job. My job was to look after you guys and my kids and the house. And then when your father killed himself, it put me in a place that I had to jump into and going to work, and not just a job, run a fucking paper.
And that she's a powerful, intelligent woman as well.
Helps. I think that's a
and
given.
You're right. Like the movie definitely plays that up. Where at the start she's prepared all these speeches, she's practicing it with one of her board member friends, and then when she gets to the boardroom, she's muffling her notes, and he does the speech for her anyway, and she's kind of nervous throughout the movie, and then at the very end, she's very empowered. Yeah. And even when you see her go to Washington, and there's that girl in line with the boxes that works for the government, and she kind of walks around and says, I hope you win because of my family there. And her big stance, part of her big stance was that soldiers, people's sons, people's brothers are just going to war for no reason.
Yeah, because as you come to learn that they're going to war for the wrong reasons, and which in hindsight we all know that the Vietnam War was a fucking crock of shit, but at the time they didn't know that, and it's good.
And there's a lot of parallels between this and The Darkest Hour, and the same thing where it's like he lies to the public, but for what good? Like, is the lying that they're doing? Because she talks to Bob, and I believe it's Lyndon B. Johnson, the ex-president, as far as I can tell. She goes to visit him at his house, and she's like, we're friends, and they talk about Jack all the time, Jack Kennedy. Yeah. I don't know if they mean John F. Kennedy or they mean Jackie Kennedy, the wife.
Jack Kennedy. As Jack and Jackie. Jack was John F. Kennedy. Jackie.
I don't know why they call him Jack. That was confusing, but I got the gist of what they were talking about. And she goes to him, and she's like, you knew this. My son went to the war, like he luckily came back, but you knew this and you let me send him, and all other people's families feeling the same way. Whereas in The Darkest Hour, it was the opposite, where the government, or at least Winston Churchill was doing the right thing, and he believed it was the right thing, and it turned out to be the right thing. Whereas Nixon and Kennedy and all this shadiness that happened around there is like not so positive. And I was always like, why don't they just burn the papers, man? Why write this shit down anyway? But then, as he said, it's kind of like so people in the future can use it as like an educational piece to learn from the mistakes of the past.
I do always wonder that, because I was thinking about the other day about all these papers and whatnot that they have, and that they're all like redacted. They're all like black line. I'm like, why'd you even keep the paper?
Well, I was saying when they had it, it's like, it says top secret, do not open. And I'm like, who's going to be like, oh, okay, I'm not going to read that. And then you turn the page, seriously, do not open. This is your last chance. Now top secret classified information. Like, why put that shit? If you don't want people to know it's top secret, just be like, my boring shit, like, my porn folder is like, pictures of my sock collection. You know what I mean? Like, don't write top secret awesome shit in here. Just write cat stuff.
Yeah.
People will really watch that.
Yeah, people which will probably click on
like
the
cat
pictures.
pictures, and you're like, oh.
But you know, I said that. What was I thought that was really good was that was a sort of towards the end of the film when they're having that big, as you mentioned, the big six-way conversation, and they're all like, "This is why you should do it. This is why you shouldn't do it. This is where we're at. This is about freedom of speech. This is like, you are literally potentially could all go to jail for treason, all of you, just for being involved." And then she's like, "Nope, do it. It's important. It's very important." And I fucking loved it.
And then she did it again at the end. When they came back through again, she's like, "No,
no, like you still have time. You've got like 2 hours till printing. We can pull this." She's like, "Nah, fuck you. It's going through."
Yeah.
But yeah, so what do you think of Tom Hanks though?
Yeah, he had a bit of a rasky.
He had his voice.
I'm Tom Hanks and I'm doing a character, a bit like that. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. I mean, Tom Hanks is awesome, but again, it's just like it's kind of like it's just Tom Hanks. Hey, Tom Hanks is here.
That is a downside when we're getting now, when there's been actors and actresses that have been so long in roles that you kind of go like, okay, it's cool, it's Tom Hanks.
And I love me Tom Hanks.
See, and I keep going back to Winston Churchill, Gary Oldman as Winston Churchill in The Darkest Tower. I'm like, I had no idea that was him. And like, that is acting. You know what I mean? Like, that you have embodied a whole different person. You've embodied a completely different character, so much so that we don't know who is there.
And there's levels to that. It's whether you...
And that's why Johnny Depp, as an example, likes to dress up all the time, because he doesn't want to...
Like, are you a actor or are you a movie star? And I think Tom Hanks is both, but he's also a movie star. So, you see he was in Sully and he had grey hair and a moustache, but he's still doing Tom Hanks. He's not doing a voice.
Still doing Tom Hanks.
Like, it's still Tom Hanks. I love Tom Hanks, but I just... he was doing Tom Hanksy stuff, and I'm like, yeah. Meryl Streep, same thing. I'm like, yeah, Meryl Streep, like, she's not doing anything incredible, but I enjoyed her performance.
There was a lot
it more serviced the story rather. It wasn't really a character piece. It was about the issue and about the time
and the people involved with that issue
message.
Supplementarily. You know what I mean? Like, it's not even a word. But what I was surprised about with the amount of other actors and actresses that were in here that I didn't know. Like, I had no idea Bob Odenkirk was in here. I had no idea that Meth Damon was here. I still don't know that actor's name, but he was the guy from Breaking Bad.
He
I
was
just
cool.
call him Meth Damon.
The lawyer.
Yeah, he was there, and that was cool. And yes, the guy from Small Soldiers, who I can never remember his name.
David Cross.
David Cross, awesome. Because I heard that voice, and I'm like, get out.
He looks a bit... I think he put it on. He's a bit fat and bold.
Yeah, like they've given him a bad cover and he's probably gained a little bit of weight. But like hearing him, I'm like, man, I've not heard that voice in years. And it felt so good to hear him.
Yeah.
And they all did something so good. And this is something that people forget. They'll probably forget, but like, because Bob Odenkirk is an incredible actor, but he's a comedian first and foremost. He's a comedic actor. So having him come in and do all these serious roles, I love it. Like, I love seeing him in Breaking Bad as Better Call Saul as Saul Goodman, and then now we're seeing him in other places as well. I'm like, fuck.
Well, the two of them were in this American show called Mr. Show.
Yeah, and
it was like this sketch comedy show with the two of them. I think there was a third guy. I don't know. It's in the stratosphere of pop culture that there's this renowned show, Mr. Show, and David Cross and Bob Odenkirk, David and Bob, were the duo. So they've both gone separate ways and had fame, and now they've kind of come together in this just to do a dramatic role, which works. David Cross not so much in it, but Bob Odenkirk quite prominent. But yeah, like all the supporting actors, faces that I don't recognize, even just the people, like the dude that found the box on his desk and went up, he was cool, and like. All those kind of things build the world of the Washington Post, and it was very convincing that it was in the 1970s. Like, I don't know where they got that printing machine. Like, is that stock? Wouldn't be stock footage, but where do they find that working
something as
stuff?
simple as how they're building the front page and all the little, because I'm forgetting that it would have been printed by like a giant typewriter. I'm living in this sweet 21st century digital age where I'm like, I just press print and it comes out. I didn't think about it. And they literally have to build each page for the printing press. I'm like, that is fucking cool.
And they'd have to like make a metal thing for each picture, wouldn't they? They'd never use again.
Yeah, you think so, right?
Yeah.
That's insane.
But even though
I'm baffled by old technology. Not in the movie, just old technology.
they send that guy there. He's like, gives him money. He's like, get a receipt, go on the train and find out what they're doing. And he goes up the elevator and he gets a package. Like people delivering packages, and then Bob Odenkirk comes back with a written story, gives it to a dude. That dude walks across the room, hands it to another dude, and then the dude does the editorial. But then even right at the end, when Meryl Streep's overseeing everyone, like there's other dudes down there typing it into each of those letters is a single one of those metal strips.
They're pulling down the strips and then...
Yeah, like, so they type it and the strip drops in. So they're each individual strips that they put into the framing of the newspaper. So that would take forever.
And they made daily papers here.
Yeah, it makes it epic because they're like, we've got to get this paper out, we've got to get this paper out. But you see all the people throwing the things, and it makes it seem like it's like they're all working together because they know this is important. But that's just that's a job every day.
The general inertia of just doing that job.
Yeah, that's like, guy turns around, passes to this person, passes to that. Like, so many in-between things that email
But I did love the amount of people that just pulled it off. Like, when they're like, we know this is big. It's print. Fucked if I know how it holds them as it goes up into the roof.
Yeah, that's cool.
But they're just pulling them off the thing because it's that important. Like, we need to look at this, and yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving into like the movie as a whole, though, I think I'm not wrapping up. We're certainly not wrapping up on the post because I love this movie. I think by far this is actually my favorite movie of the Oscars so far. But I think that does come from, as I mentioned, my romanticization of the journalism and as of this reporting. Like, this is why I love Spotlight so much. I thought Spotlight was fucking fantastic because I love the idea of that chasing the story and going and doing, and they're like running out, and they're like taking, like he goes to a different payphone and then goes, like that shit. That shit doesn't exist anymore. It does, but
like going through the leads and like crossing them off, and like the way he was doing in this one, where he's like, is Dave Jones there? And like, no. Who's this? So, like that kind of thing. Like, I'm not going to tell you who I am. Or like, oh, he's not in at the moment. Oh, it's Glenn Forderson.
Yeah.
Tell him I called. Like, just the trying to trip people.
And
up.
the whole idea of the like when they arrive at Tom Hanks's house and Bob Odenkirk pulls up in the taxi and they're like, oh hey man, and he just brings like 2 fucking massive boxes of paper. They're like, is that what I think it is?
He's like, yep.
See, nowadays it would be. Check it out.
Not even that. You get.
I
SD
have
card.
all the documents on this USB. Actually, I think Windows is on this USB, but like I think that's what adds to the big oomph of this.
I concur.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you want to say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say. Yeah. So it is spoilers. So in the movie, it kind of sets up while the kids were screaming that I'm like. I think Nixon says that he's like, fuck the Washington Post. They're never getting this. They're never getting that. They're going to be ruined.
Yeah.
And
so essentially, it's a cut to sort of outside the Oval Office, and Nixon's in there on a phone, and it sounded like recording, but I don't think it was.
It was. It was like the actual
Get
Nixon.
Off. Fuck off, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So the conversation is pretty much along the lines of, this is bullshit. How can they do this? This is making me look bad. Like, the Washington Post are barred from the White House. They can never come in here. They can't cover this. They can't do anything involved with me. See me? Kick them the fuck out.
Yeah. That's right. And they literally were like, this was the end of the pay. If this went bad, they were screwed.
Because as we mentioned, they were making the newspaper go public, and they're like, well, there is a clause as part of the contract for any reason, as long as nothing bad happens, nothing catastrophic happens within the next week, the deal will still go through.
Because it was within the week of the deal, which seems like a movie device, but I assume that really happened.
I think it sort of may have been
similar. The people could pull out. It's like 10-day cooling off period of getting out of that, essentially. But what was I saying? President is like,
Nixon.
get out. Yep, Nixon was like, get out. 10-day cooling off period. I don't know. Keep talking. I forgot what I was saying.
Yeah, so like I love the idea because as I mentioned, this movie is the social commentary Best Picture nomination. Like, even if something is blatant, there's one of the final scenes at the end where they are. You're all off to that side. Come back in here again. There you go. Bring your mic with you. Right at the end when they go to court and there's the decision and there's that woman in the center. She's got the phone on. She's reading out what they're saying, and in a not so subtle crash zoom on this chick's face, she's like, "It's against the Constitution. You can't." I'm like, did you want to just jam this down where like what the whole point of this movie is? Like, fantastic, great story, of course. And do I certainly agree that, like, you know, like they should do the "fuck you, Trump" for this? Hell yeah! I think the way he treats the press and the way he treats, you know, media in general is disgusting.
Yeah.
And you know, when they're looking at like running home, that it's unconstitutional. You know, this like the freedom of the press is sacred and should be held as and treated as such. You know, and speaking of social commentary, though, I think, you know, the bastardization of media has sort of happened somewhat. So, like, there are reasons for Trump to be kind of, because there is fake-ish news. But he is just tar brush. Like, you're all fake. Anyone that I don't watch and doesn't support my views are fake. Yeah. That's what I disagree with.
That's true. But the idea that they
small tirade
had brought in these lawyers and then, like, check it exactly. We want to find the loophole and things of what we can and can't do. And that Meth Damon is talking to Bob Odenkirk, and he's like, you know, like, have you read it? And he's like, yeah, I've read it. We're fine. We can do this. And then he's like, well, what about the source? Did you get it from the New York Times? Because if it is, you can't print it.
Did you get this
source?
He's
like, my source is not from the New York Times. I'm fine. And like, is it the same source?
Like, yeah, how likely is it it's the same source?
And he's like, shit. Because then he's like, yeah, they're going to get us if that's the case, if they find out. And then at the exact same time, the guy who stole the papers went on the TV. So I don't know, again, if it lined up in history, but the newspaper goes out in the morning. The guy that day announces everything on TV, and it's all out in the open completely now. And then all the newspapers follow suit.
That was a lovely moment. I'm like, what's he doing? He's like, boom, boom. He's dropping all the papers. Like, you know, all the papers are covering all the same story. It's fucking beautiful.
Yeah, but they got there first. Yeah, but and the idea of like it's dangerous, you know, like he meets him in a hotel room and he's calling on the different phones, like, who is this? Don't call me, talking in code, things like that, you know, like the government's out to get you, this X-Files kind of vibe to it. And what happens at the end is that Nixon is like, yeah, go fuck yourself, they're not going to do anything, I'm going to ruin them. And then there goes to the Watergate hotel, and the people are sneaking around in Watergate, finding the evidence against Nixon for all the things that he recorded of people against their will and all the secrets that he kept.
Isn't this history period?
Yeah. So essentially,
that's like that's. Speaking of politics, my favorite thing I love about the Nixon thing is the whole idea at some point he's like, nah, fuck you, I quit, and then just literally fucks off in a helicopter.
That's
like, it's my favorite thing in, like, because everyone's left going, what the fuck just happened? It's like the president just quit and he ran away. Yeah.
But yeah, that led to his resignation. So essentially it's like, and the other big thing is that the Washington Post was the one that outed all that information. They got the information from the Watergate and spread the story that led to his resignation. So they were kind of like enemies, at least, to be like, Nixon's like, I'm going to take him down, I'm the president of the United States. And because they stood up for this and freedom of speech, they were able to print other things that they discovered that ended his presidency. So yeah, essentially the movie ends with the White House, not the White House, sorry, Watergate Hotel, and then All the President's Men, which is the Washington Post story about Woodward and Bernstein, which is Dustin Hoffman and Robert Redford in the movie, them working for the Washington Post, uncovering that story and taking the president down.
A prequel by accident.
Pretty much, yeah.
Holy
like
shit,
links up. You
can
can watch it back to back, and that's another one of those movies where you're just like, man, journalism is like kick ass. On the phone, working hard. Late nights, smoking cigarettes, just like deadlines, all stand around. Your family's at home crying because you're never there, but you know, like, all like people hanging around the office until late hours, just getting shit done. Yeah,
and like, you know, then they talk about that Neil guy, the one that broke the story, and he's like, he's essentially editor at large. Like, they just let him go. He's like, no one's seen him in 3 months, and he looked really smug the other day. He's got something. He's onto something.
Yeah, and to have that freedom to work on a story for 3 months and you know, be that confident,
and then just boom, and blow the world apart.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Final thoughts?
It's entertaining. I really liked it. Spielberg, he directed Ready Player One and finished shooting it, but now it's got post-production because it's like big visual effects film. And then he had another movie lined up, and one of the cast members dropped out, so he's like, I've got a free window, and he received this script, and he's like, this script is a mirror of the times now. It's not going to be relevant next year. It's going to be relevant now. So he got the script and like wrapped the film and had post-production done in 9 months. and just got everybody together and made this film in that time.
And that's happens when you work with A-listers. Like, it's just like...
Exactly. Like, it's go, go, go. And the other thing is, like, in Spielberg's best movies would be, like, both, you know, best movies is whatever, but the one that he won the Academy Award for, Schindler's List, and Jurassic Park, he did back-to-back in the same year. So he was working on Schindler's List while he's on the set of Jurassic Park and vice versa, like getting it done at the same time, which you'd think making either of those movies would be a massive feat for someone. To do them both at the same time, and one's one of the biggest blockbusters of all time, and the other one's like one of the most critically acclaimed movies of all time. So he's kind of doing the same thing, doing a blockbuster and doing this, you know, personal piece. But it's good. It's a good movie. Yeah, I'm glad I saw it. I think it gets to the one of the best pictures of the year category, but I don't think it'll win Best Picture. And maybe the politically charged part of it is something that Americans will draw towards because it is an American Academy Awards. But yeah, I thought it was good. But
I thought it was fucking fantastic. I loved it so much. As I mentioned, it's by far the number one at this point. But I said, having time to reflect on it, I don't know. Like, because it's still like Darkest Hour, and I think I enjoyed this more than Darkest Hour, but I liked Darkest Hour.
Of the movies I hadn't seen, Darkest Hour is still
the
one.
So this is number one for me. So as I said, I love the romanticization of journalism. I think it's fucking fantastic. I think everyone bought their A game. Granted, I don't think Meryl Streep should be probably getting Best Actress for it. However, that's pretty much a given at this point. She just gets it because she turns up. And that's more of a respect thing rather than like a...
Here's the question for the 5 people watching. I've seen the trailer to Mamma Mia 2.
Oh, what?
I don't know what it's called. Here we go again, I think it is. Mamma Mia.
Oh, that's clever. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. And in Mamma Mia 1, Meryl Streep was the mother.
Yeah.
And Amanda Seyfried came up and she was the daughter. And then they had to find the fathers, which was the 3 people was the father. When she was young, she hooked up with these 3 dudes.
I have not seen the
Pierce
movie.
Brosnan, Stellan Skarsgård, and Colin Firth.
Yeah.
And then she's like, I don't know who's the father. Anyway, this one is a prequel about young Meryl Streep and her relationships with those 3 people and the parallels between Amanda Seyfried and her mother. And in the trailers, Meryl Streep's like dancing around, but you don't really see scenes with her in the present day. Are they using old footage, or is Meryl Streep in it? I haven't bothered looking it up. I'm not going to, but I want to know. Is Meryl Streep in Mamma Mia 2, or are they using stock footage from number 1?
I'm not sure. I have no idea.
Streep.
But yeah, Tom Hanks came in, kicked butt. It was just good. I love Tom Hanks. I think he was great in this. I think the supporting cast were great as well because this movies like this where it is an ensemble cast, but a lot of them are semi-unknowns. Like they are only the strong as their weakness, and I think all of like there was no weak character.
Yeah,
there was no one that I was like, "What are you doing?"
I think it's a good advantage for character actors as well. It's like there's movies like Dunkirk where you're like, No Name went to No Name and did this and that and that, and then No Wayne did this. But when you can, even if you don't know the characters' names, you're like, you know, Meth Damon, you got Bob Odenkirk, you got David Cross, like the faces you recognize in there. So when you think back, you're like, oh, that character, that character, that character. I think it helps and it gives those people.
And
work.
I should also mention one of my other he's one of the best characters in Silicon Valley. He's like the other lawyer that's tall and skinny and gangly.
Yeah.
Oh my god! Another one. I was watching it. And I think I checked my phone again for like a minute, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And I looked up, and there he is with Meth Damon. I'm like, "Oh, this is amazing!"
I think he was the second
Crossfire,
lawyer.
how are you, my friend? Thank you for jumping on in.
Hello. Yeah, I think he was the second lawyer.
Yeah, it was the second lawyer. And like, oh, it's just. Well, I think the movie was fantastic. I said I loved what it had to say. I loved how it said it. I do think it does have it will have an advantage being so politically charged at this point. I don't know how. I think once we sort of watch. Well, I watch Get Out. You've seen it. We talk about that and where that'll place. I'm not too sure, but I think it will certainly be within with a chance because of what it says.
Michael Stuhlbarg was in it as well. He was. She sat down and had dinner with him, and then he had to leave. And he was the father in Call Me by Your Name, and he's also in The Shape of Water. So you'll see him 3 best movies this year.
Oh, it was too. What's with all these cross actors and the things? Crossfire. We just wrapped up talking about The Post. by Steven Spielberg, starring Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep. We're about to jump into the Phantom Thread. What I love about this is, as well, as it is Steven Spielberg, big fucking director, like known, as I said, A-lister, big hitter. There was nothing about this movie that screamed Spielberg to me, and I liked that though, because it was telling the story rather than this is like my taste to it. Like same way, like if you watch a Tarantino movie or a Kevin Smith movie, as two very specific examples, like you watch those movies and you know that voice, you can hear the voice and how that movie is made, you know. And like Wes Anderson is probably one of the best examples of that, like Grand Budapest. And we just saw I saw the trailer again for Isle of Dogs, and like it just looks like that beautiful, weird, you know, that I've come to know Wes Anderson for only recently, knowing.
I don't know. I don't think Spielberg, like, other than themes of like wonder and dreamlike qualities and father issues, I don't think Steven Spielberg has a style. Like he uses the same composer, John Williams.
In my head though, Steven Spielberg is the big grandiose movies. So looking at this, I'm like, okay, yeah, it's Steven Spielberg, but it doesn't feel like Steven Spielberg to me because it's not a big grandiose film. Yeah. However, I did see Bridge of Spies, and the movie was kind of trash. So
yeah, and he does these ones. He does like Lincoln and these kind of political movies. Yeah. Amistad as well.
Speaking of Lincoln, as we head on into Phantom Thread, starring Daniel Day-Lewis, who was also in Lincoln. Movie I'm still yet to see, funny enough. Talk about Phantom Thread.
So, speaking of Academy Award-winning movies, might I say. So, this is the plot synopsis of Phantom Thread. Not the Phantom Thread.
No, just Phantom Thread.
Not Phantom Thread. Not the Phantom Thread. It's Phantom Thread.
Or the Phantom, Fred.
No, not that. His name's not Fred. So, set in 19... This is like... Let me pitch something to you, right?
Yes, sir.
Right. So, I'm like, hey, man, I've made a movie. Or, I want you to come and see a movie, all right? We're going to the movies. Friday night. It's going to be awesome.
Yep.
Here we go. You ready? I'll buy you popcorn. I'll buy you a drink. It's going to be awesome. So, this movie's set in 1950s London.
Okay. That could be cool. Could be an old school gangster film or
cool.
something like that. Yeah.
Right. Reynolds Woodcock is the main character.
Is it a gay porn now?
Not yet.
Yet.
Wait, but he is a renowned dressmaker.
Okay.
It's not just a dressmaker.
Renowned?
No. Renowned.
Yeah.
Right? Whose fastidious life, he lives a fastidious life, right?
You know what that means?
Oh, it's fastidious. Is disrupted, so you already got drama in here, by a young, strong-willed woman.
Oh.
Yeah. Alma, who becomes his muse and lover. Do you not want to see that movie?
No. I saw that movie. I didn't want to see that movie.
Whoa. Okay.
I did not... I'm going to get straight off the bat. I did not enjoy that movie in the slightest. Like, one of the things that made me chuckle the most out of it, when I read the... Because we're watching, I'm like, what the fuck is this? I pull up my phone, I look at it, and it's like, okay, it's about a confirmed bachelor. I'm like, doesn't confirmed bachelor... Wasn't that the 50s term for a dude that like dudes? Like, isn't that... Because, like, as in, like, he's never going to find a partner because he's a confirmed bachelor. And then I'm like... All right, but they clearly mentioned that he's like really into chicks and that sort of stuff, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And he brings in women and then like artses them up and then pushes them away. And I watched about 40% of this movie. Not even like I was tired, so I was in the same way that I watched like the full movie played.
Call me by your name.
The full movie played. I did not pay attention to all of it. My wife did. She had no idea what happened.
That's disappointing. That is very disappointing because you missed out.
I tried.
So, are you a fan of Paul Thomas Anderson's work?
The name rings a bell like something fierce, but for the life of me, I couldn't think of what else he's done.
So he did Boogie Nights.
Haven't seen it.
What?
I don't think so. I don't think
Magnolia.
Wait, Magnolia. Is that the Julia Roberts? That's still Magnolia.
Tom Cruise. No, still Magnolia's. No, Magnolia's Tom Cruise, John C. Reilly, Philip Baker Hall.
Nope.
William H. Macy.
Still Magnolia's. Fuck yeah.
Hard 8 was one of his earlier movies. Again,
Crossfire asked, do you guys game? We do, man. If you want to talk about gaming streams, we stream every Wednesday night, minimum, and whenever we get cool games. Codes from Bayonetta came from Nintendo today.
Ooh, 1 and 2.
1 and 2.
Nice.
So I'll probably stream that over the next couple of days.
Punch Drunk Love.
That I ring a bell. I haven't seen it though.
Adam Sandler. Yeah. The Master, Philip Seymour Hoffman. There Will Be Blood, Daniel Day-Lewis. Seen that?
Yes.
There you go. Paul Thomas Anderson. So he does he's in the top tier. Darren Aronofsky, Paul Thomas Anderson, Christopher Nolan, like filmmakers. And of recent, he made a short film about Boogie Nights when he was younger, in early 20s, and then mid to late 20s directed Boogie Nights. And Boogie Nights was like, it's based on porno actors and porno directors and the porno phenomenon in the 70s where people would go to cinemas to watch it, and it was like a thing before VHS came into play, when porn became VHS and then the internet, of course.
Wouldn't that be insane to go to a cinema now and do that? Crossfire, but I gotta go now. Sorry guys, no worries, man. It said thank you for stopping by. If you haven't already, always give us a follow. You can see when we do game over the coming days.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah, if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. Wink.
But
thank you for joining us.
But it's a really like heartfelt movie, intelligent movie, and then he kind of makes these more and more obscure movies as he goes along. So Punch Drunk Love is very quirky, strange. There Will Be Blood is the same kind of thing. The Master Again, which I haven't seen in its entirety, and then of course this one. So Phantom Thread. So Daniel Day-Lewis was in There Will Be Blood, won Academy Award for Best Picture for the work. I believe it was nominated for Best Picture and Best Director, Screenplay by Paul Thomas Anderson.
Kick button, I think.
Yeah, I don't think it won except for Best Picture. But yeah, it was up in that caliber. And Daniel Day-Lewis only comes out of like retirement every 6 years or so.
He does something fierce. Like he's a true method actor. He's actoring. Like so there's being an actor and there's actoring. Actoring is when you throw yourself in that role. As I said, Gary Oldman actoring. Daniel Day-Lewis as Lincoln actoring.
Daniel Day-Lewis is like the pinnacle of acting. He's like considered the best actor. Robert De Niro, Daniel Day-Lewis is above that. Yeah, and like in what's it called? Last of the Mohicans, where he plays a Native American dude, but he's not Native American, but he joins them. He like camped out, lived in a tent, like a teepee, for like months on end. He gets into the role, like crazy into the role, like
not like Jared Leto into the role, but like proper.
Yeah, like Bill the Butcher in Gangs of New York. Like he becomes the character and lives in the character for the whole time. And so in this movie, he did the same kind of thing. He learned how to sew, made dresses. Here he uses his natural accent, which is like, I'm very unimpressed with things. Like he's very subdued and to the point of comedic. Where, and again, it's about
but also coming off like an absolute prick the entire time.
Yeah, it's about a dressmaker, and he's like in the 1950s. He designs dresses, and then
like those luxurious dresses that no one ever actually wears.
Yeah, but these are like the Oscars ones where you wear it once, and everyone's like, "Who is that?" And you never get it. Like I don't know if it was the Queen of somewhere.
Yeah, the princess of someone.
Yeah, he like makes her dress. So these big fuck off things. He's like a genius. So he is very quiet and withdrawn, and he lives with his sister. And he has this close bond with his mother who's passed away, and he always talks about her fondly. And just the nuances to his dresses where he puts personal things in there. He has a hair of his mother, a lock of his mother's hair in his suit jacket, so she's always with him, and he puts little notes inscribed in things, and he's really meticulous in what he does and focused in his zone. And he goes to a restaurant one day and meets this waitress, and
I love that.
Fancies
that
her.
Scene was actually quite fun. To its credit, like, as much as I disliked this movie overall, like that scene I thought I quite liked.
Where he ordered lots of food.
Yeah, where he sits there and he's clearly interested by this woman, and whether it be in an infatuation or it could be I like her figure and I could make her some good dresses. He, in order to get her to come over and sort of stick out, I guess, he orders like 15 different things, then takes the bit of paper and goes, "Hope you get that right," almost, and then like puts it away, and she sure enough brings out all the food. And I thought it was really that was interesting. I thought that was a good little weird,
like a
quirk.
test or something. But yeah, so he meets her, and you think that it's in a relationship way, like you said, but then he takes her back to his house, and he's like gets her fitting. Like, he doesn't say what's happening. She just kind of goes along with it because she's attracted to him.
And side note, I should mention about the fitting. One thing I really loved about the fitting scenes was there was just no score, which was very quiet, and it's just him shuffling.
Well, even when there was score, it was mostly just kind of piano.
Yeah, it was very like sort of like subtle piano, and I like
casual.
And I like that, sort of the scuttering and the very like. I'm like not ASM style, but I like when there's a little bit of extra like sound effect. Like just like kind of like Foley work, I guess. So it always kind of catches my attention, and this did exactly that. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, there was a moment where he walked into the dress room before he fell over, and you could hear the footsteps on the wall, the hardwood floors, and I was like, yeah, you really noticed that kind of texture to it.
Yeah, that's my love for like audio design. You know, it's just like that little, not in an ASMR style. One thing I loved about Sons of Anarchy was a lot of them talked with like a lower register voice, but you'd always hear that kind of like gravel and a bit of, it's like something everyone needed a drink.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I love listening to the dialogue in Sons of Anarchy for that reason. Like headphones, I'm like, oh.
There's like, in the dialogue, it's like, I'm gonna shoot you, lick. And then I'll do this. So essentially, this girl, Alma, comes into his life, and he takes her to fit a dress like straight away, and she's like, am I here?
I think she knew who he was.
No, I don't think she did at all.
Didn't? Okay.
No, I think she's just like, why am I here? I'm on a date, and now he's like telling me to take my clothes off, and I'm trying on a dress. And then his sister comes in, who he's very close with, and she's just kind of like
standoffish as
and
hell.
Again, they're very proper and British, and they even have an argument where it's like, she's like, oh, not even that. It's just like, oh, just shut up, Brian. She's like, don't you talk back to me like that. I'll fuck you up, Philip. I'll fuck you up so bad you won't know where you are. He's like, piss off. And like, that's the biggest argument. Like, there's parts where he's like, he's very meticulous in his life, and he's very like, he wants his breakfast like there. If there's any change to it, he's having breakfast, and she
not
comes
like an
in,
autistic way, but in like just a meticulous man,
like an OCD kind of way, where she comes in and she's like pouring tea and a little bit loudly. She's a little more, not as delicate with things as he is. She's more of a common person, so she kind of smashes down the tea and does this, pours it up high. Yeah, and he's just like,
the fuck are you doing?
Please. What are you trying to do? You're distracting me. It's awful. You're like a rhino coming in here. Get out of my sight. But he never takes it above an octave. It's just that.
Yeah.
And then there's a part where she wants to change his routine and ask the sister to leave for the night.
Oh, the dinner, yeah.
Yeah, and
he gets so mad.
But when he comes in, he gets there and he's up the stairs. He's like, where's sister? It's like, she's gone out. And he's like, when is she going to be home? When does she leave? Like, he's just like, when did she leave? Oh, this is very improper. I need to take him out. I think I'm just going to run a bath. Like, this is too much to deal with. Like, it's like freaking him out, but he never reaches a level.
Yeah, and then because the whole idea is she wanted, because you led to believe they're in like a romantic relationship of some sort. And she's like, I want to make him dinner. I want to do something special. Just have time between us.
Yes.
And then he's like, oh, often, and then goes up and has a bath. Comes down and he's like, oh, this is lovely. Like, no, it's not. You don't like this. He's like, without yelling. He's like, you know, I like my asparagus like this.
Yeah.
You get this way.
Yeah. And he's like, have you got a gun on me? What are you trying to do? You're ruining my life. I love that.
This. It's like, it's like, this is out of the ordinary. I don't like it. What are you doing? Are you trying to kill me? Like, are you gonna? Like, it's really like it's sarcastic and just fucking. Ooh, it's such a cock.
Yeah, he is. So, on the one sense, it's very, I think I'd say washed out in a sense. Like, there's a lot of light coming through the windows, and it has a very bright look to it. It's not stylistically shot like Darkest Hour. Even if you didn't like the movie, visually it was like,
Darkest Hour was visually stimulating still. Yeah,
exactly. But it kind of maybe brought you out of it. So this is just a straightforward told story, played very naturalistic.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Daniel Day-Lewis is good in the character that he does. He's incredible in that, and he's in the zone. And the girl who plays Alma's really good. And it's boring.
It's so boring.
And it's slow. And it's about Dressmaker, so I don't care about that. It's by Paul Thomas Anderson, who makes very cerebral, slow movies.
If Jess, one of our usual members, we should mention a lot of our community are off all going seeing Black Panther tonight. They're like, hey, let's have a community night. I'm like, we got a show to do, and we saw Black Panther on Wednesday.
We got works to do.
We got work. And they're like, well, we're going to go see it anyway. So I think there's like 10 of them off all seeing.
Hi, guys.
I'm like, hey, thanks for enjoying. So yeah, this is like Jess's fucking porn. Like, really? She loves making dresses and shit. So this is like her right up her jam.
So it's not my jam, and it's very slow and not pointless, but it's very like you've got to look for the meaning in it, or draw out of the characters. They don't say what they feel. They don't say what they mean. It's more cerebral. But on the same side of it, watching it with my girlfriend, there were a lot of parallels between us in that she's a very passionate person and caring and loving person,
okay.
and I'm a very leave me alone and let me do my own thing. And because he's focused on his dressmaking constantly, and I'm
focusing on content creation,
the pop culturist constantly, I'm very much in that zone. And even in the dinner scene, she said, because I fell asleep watching it last night and had to watch the rest of it today. So I got 20 minutes in and rolled over and fell asleep. And she came in and sat and watched a fair chunk of the movie, enraged that I was asleep because I'm busy pop culturing. And watched the dinner scene. And it was like a mirror of our lives where it's like, you know, like, she's trying to do something nice and make a nice gesture, and she's like, I want to spend a moment with you. And he's like, what do you want? What is the point of this? You know? And she's like, I just want to do something nice. It's going the wrong way. I just want to spend time with you. And he's like, and do what? Like, I'm always with you. And she's like, but there's a distance between us. Like, I'm always here. I spend the whole day with you, as Daniel Day-Lewis's character does with Alma in the movie. She's helping him sew. She's standing around. She's his muse. She's there all day, but he's busy in the zone doing other things. So it was very personal to me at the same time.
Wow. This is awesome because, like I said, between my wife and I'm the more emotional one. My wife's very sort of like very straight. Like, so any argument that we ever have is me being like, fuck this, fuck you, blah, blah. And she's like, all right, cool. And then I storm out and then like she's like, he'll be back in 10 minutes. And 10 minutes I'm like, hey, mum, I'm so sorry. Like, cause she never fires off the handle. I'm the one that's more emotionally charged. I have the heart on my sleeve and that sort of stuff. So
yeah, and that's very much my girlfriend. She's very much that kind of person. Heart on the sleeve, strong emotions, just wants to be happy and care for people and do the nice thing.
Yeah, I'm like, I just want to hug Millie. And she's like,
and needs people around and things like that. Whereas I'm kind of like, I'm just going to do my own thing. Like, I've always had that creative spark where I'm just like,
I love you, you're here, but I'm going to do this. Like, I can see you and that's great. And like,
and if she's like, goes out the room, I'm like, where are you going? And she's like, you've been ignoring me for 3 hours sitting on the computer that's like here between us.
I'm like, I like the presence.
Yeah, I want you to be here, which doesn't make her happy, of course. But you know what I mean? Like, I'm always draw things or write things or do things in my little bubble.
Yeah.
And you know, that's exactly what this character was. Like, and he didn't have, but it's on a grand level of this guy's a genius, and this is what goes into being a genius, that it forces the people you love outside of your life, and he needs those people in his life to inspire him and keep him going, but he doesn't want them around all the time. He wants them around, he doesn't want to spend time with them. And then even
in a traditional sense.
That's right. And so the idea is that she decides to poison him.
That was fucked, by the way.
Yeah.
Jacinta, don't poison Dylan, please.
She did buy some mushrooms today. So the idea is she gets these mushrooms out of the garden and poisons him, not to death, but to get him sick so that she can care for him, and his time is spent away from his sister and not focused on work, and that she can build that bond with him. And at first it works, and again he's got this obsession with his mother, so he sees her as a ghost standing in the corner of the room and talks to her.
I was pooping reading a book at that point, and Millie's like, there's a ghost in the room. I'm like, what?
Yeah, so his mother kind of just stands there, and he sees it as...
I'm getting yelled at from across the ensuite.
He sees it as like a positive thing, like... rather than being creepy, it's kind of like, you know, people live on, and you can see that. But she doesn't communicate with him, and he's probably fever dreaming it. That's what's happening.
Or just having a good
But then at the end of the movie, when it kind of goes, he gets well, and then decides, you know what? You're right. I've wasted my life. I thought I was going to live forever. Yeah. I'm going to keep, you know, living in my bubble and doing my thing, but life's too short. I want to live it with you, and let's get married. So they get married. And then they go out and do things, like they go New Year's party, and he's just, like, she's eating breakfast and he's just fuming, like, I've made the worst mistake of my life. He's just fucking hating it. And she's eating her food normally, and he's just like, you're a grub. And then they go to New Year's, and she's like, let's go out. It's New Year's Eve. Let's party. He's like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm staying here. So she goes out to party.
Is this where, because this is when I entered the room again, and he's talking to some guy, and he's like, I thought I told you to fuck off.
Well, yeah, the doctor comes... And she's poisoned him, so she doesn't want the doctor to check him. Yeah. And she's trying to push away the sister. So finally, the sister convinces the doctor to come up, and he's just like, disgruntled person anyway. He's like, go away. There's a strange man in here. Alma, get him out. And he's like, I'm the doctor. He's like, fuck off. Fuck off. And then they see him at the wedding later, and he's like, I do apologize.
Oh, it was the wedding? Okay. So, yeah. I think I missed some key details here.
Might have been the wedding. He's like, I apologize for what I said before. I think I owe you an apology. I probably said something bad. I think I told you to fuck off. And I think he meant it.
How
even then.
how Daniel Day-Lewis swore in this movie
it's
was
quite good.
awesome.
But then at the end of it, so he starts to go skiing, and he stays there drawing his pictures, and she goes off, and the parallels are all there. He can't get out of his zone to have fun and live in the moment. He tries to, but it doesn't really work. So then she distances herself from him, and he gets shitty about it, and he's like, "You're driving me nuts." Again, parallels where you're kind of like, I was in my bubble and I was good, and now you've come into my life and I can't concentrate. But then when you're not around, I can't concentrate either. So it's this catch-22. And then eventually she stews up another set of poison. But he's like...
He's aware.
I'm onto this. Like, it looks like he's onto this. He's watching her and she's watching him. And then she brings it. And it's a long, drawn-out, like, 10-minute scene. Her cooking, brings it to him. And he's just, like, watching her defiantly, like...
And she doesn't eat it, does she?
No, he's like, she's just watching him. She does going things like, you want me this? I'll eat this. And he kind of knows.
Yeah.
And he wants to be poisoned so he can get sick and she can care for him. And she'll bring him back and he'll be stronger than ever and he'll create again. But then a month's time, she's going to poison him again so he gets weak again. And again, I guess it goes down to that maternal idea of his mother. And I don't know what their relationship was like, but he's not a caring person. So it must have been that her caring for him kind of nurturing side of it, and that's what he was longing for, and that's what gives them a chance to bond. But yeah, that was a weird ending.
This is fucking why I love doing this show, because I thought the movie was hot trash. I didn't care about it at all.
Well, it's boring.
And like, what you've said to me completely changed my look at the movie.
Like, if you put it in a different field, like if he was a football coach...
I still wouldn't care.
Yeah, well, that's a bad example because I won't care either. But if he's like a video game designer, or if he was a Ghostbuster and did that, you know what I mean? Like, I get the parallels of the same kind of situation.
I'm back.
He's a game designing Ghostbuster who drives a DeLorean. But yeah, and so it's kind of like hard to watch sometimes, where I can just feel like my girlfriend nodding at me like...
It's like that one time we watched the Louis C.K. stand-up and he's talking about like the mind of men and you're like, see?
Yeah.
And yeah.
It rings true. Art and comedy are very true things. So it is like the... I wouldn't say the epitome, but it's up there of what an Academy movie is.
Yeah, and that's instant.
Bordering foreign film.
The instant feel I got for it, I'm like, yeah, I know why it's nominated, because it just reeks Academy movie. Yeah, it reeks like that. Not pretentious is probably the wrong word, but like that upper echelon of movies.
Yeah, and that's why I'm glad that genre movies like The Shape of Water and Get Out are in this caliber of movies. And District 9 years ago was nominated. Was Moon? Maybe. District 9 definitely gets nominated for these things. Like, it's incredible. But these are the more traditional kind of echelon of movies that get nominated. And so for that, I can see why it is. Again, from the plot synopsis, I could avoid it and never care. But I'm glad I watched it.
I still wish it was...
The experience was horrible.
When I first asked you, I'm like, what's the Phantom Thread about? You're like, oh, it's a gritty remake of The Emperor's New Clothes. I'm like, get the fuck out. You're like, no, you idiot. I'm like, oh.
Phantom Menace. I don't even know what the Phantom Thread means. Like the thing that he's looking for, I don't even know. The things that tie things together, I could make up a whole lot of analogies.
It was the rope between them, you know.
Yeah, the string that
drew
them together.
Yeah, I think Millie mentioned that it was like the thread that keeps them together. It's like weird kind of
But again, like the performances are very stoic because they're British and upper class and proper, and they're just sitting there quietly all day, sipping tea, doing things. So I found that amusing, and just his, just the way he handles stress, where he's just like, "This is the worst moment of my life. I'm so angry you would not believe. Like, never felt this way before. I'm gonna have to go lay down." And it's like, what? Like that's your anger? But yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis, he has a presence to him as always, and I liked him in this, and he's quirky and weird and strange. Nobody else that I recognised in the cast, so he was the standout. Alma was, of course, really good. She had like a foreign accent. I think it was natural. Yeah,
it kind of felt European-ish, I guess.
Yeah, but she was cool. Some of the interactions were good. Again, like the things that I saw the parallels in, I enjoyed, and I get the idea of it. And like Mother as well, it's another one that's like a personal kind of movie where Darren Aronofsky, the director, was kind of like the media and his life and being a genius and what being a genius is about. The Mother, without spoiling it too much, is about a writer who hasn't, or a poet that hasn't written in a long time. and sits around his house all day with his wife trying to come up with ideas, like just writer's block, and then goes fucking way out.
See, my version of that is Californication, which is all about Hank Moody, who writes this incredible, like, you know, David Duchovny's character who writes this incredible book that everyone loves. You know, it becomes a movie, all that sort of shit, and everyone's just waiting for his next one. And he's just too self-destructive to write that next thing. And, you know, his inspiration comes from his wife, or his girlfriend, who they separated. She's off going to get married to somebody else. They've got the daughter. Like, it's the whole, like, you know, will they, won't they sort of thing. And like, she is the inspiration, and it's how he creates, and without her being around, and him trying to get her back to be that inspiration, and yeah, it's just the self-destructiveness. Californication is fucking fantastic. Please watch Californication.
Yeah,
there's boobs in it.
I saw Matilda. Oh, is it Matilda? What's her name?
Yeah, Madeline Zimmer.
Madeline Zimmer, who was from The Nanny.
That part's really confronting, by the way. Just so
it was, and then I never turned back.
Yeah, no, it's a damn good series.
First episode,
fantastic series.
Gracie.
Yes.
So yeah.
I look. Honestly, there is nothing that I could add that would be better than what you've said. As in, like, for me, I didn't enjoy the movie at all. Daniel Day-Lewis was fine. I thought it was good. I did like the sort of the weird, the mild manliness of him, but kind of not really. He was a giant cock most of the time. Dresses I don't give a crap about. As I said, out of all of them, it was the one that I spent the least time caring about, and I only slightly care about it more now because of your connection with it. So my question for you is, though,
yes,
as you mentioned, this was a very, very personal story. Were you able to use this as like a conversational piece with Jacinta and your partner?
And possibly.
So explain it with her, like this encapsulates what I do.
Oh, it's a known thing.
No, but I mean, like, because, like, I don't know about you, like, there are moments in time, there are particular movies that, for me especially, that sort of like, they encapsulate what is in my head in the perfect way. Something as simple as Chasing Amy, Kevin Smith, like Ben Affleck's monologue in that car, something I've wanted to say 1,000 times, and it's fucking perfect. And like, you know, there has been a time where there's like a girl that I was interested in, we watched Chasing Amy, and I'm like, the whole idea of being like, and then she's like, movie sucked. I'm like,
there was an episode of Community in season 1 where Abed's father came to the college. And Abed made this movie about Jeff, and he was filming Jeff constantly. And Jeff's like, "Get out of my face, Abed! Like, why are you here? Like, stop it!" And then he edited it into a video about his father, you know, ignoring him and what are you doing? You're weird. I don't have time for you. And that struck a chord with me.
Fuck that movie.
I like that.
Especially like now's in it. Like, as I've become older, as you know, like approaching my 30s, you know, and like I'm a father. I'm a husband. Like, I'm just like an emotional mess these days. Like, it's just like everything that makes you I'm just nothing but warms and fuzzies. And like my wife's, so it's probably as fucking hard as ever. I'm like, "Bah!" Like TV ads and shit. So like when I rewatching Community the other week, I'm like, "Bah!" So that movie, that
movie. Episode, was it?
Yeah.
There you go. So yeah, that kind of thing understands. But yeah, just when it got to the really poignant, like, this is how we solve the issue and this is how we live together happily. The kids were screaming, jumping around. Ollie hacked the computer. Like, I was joking. I'm like, Ollie, stop tapping on the keyboard like a hacker from a movie. And then somehow we got into like web code on a website, and I took a photo of him, and he's like,
"It's F11, dude."
F11. There you go. So he's got this evil look on his face, hacking the Matrix. I took a photo, but then that was screaming, so I had to play it 3 times over to get the message of the movie. So no, it hasn't really, and I'm not going to watch it again. 3 times is too many. 1 time's too many. But yeah, you can kind of. It's more of a I know kind of thing rather than a revelation, which is sad, really. Yeah. But if you want to see me wasting my time more doing pop culture stuff and not supporting my family, then you can tune in, you can like, you can subscribe, you can give money to the Patreon. Doesn't go to my family.
Right, I'm going to do the better sell. If you've liked what you saw here today, be sure to like, subscribe. All the social links are in the description below. We do have a Facebook community group where a lot of the people that do normally join us on our stream are chatting with us. However, they're all off watching a movie right now. So if you like what we do enough, if you want to show some love randomly, we do have a merch store at popculturist.com/shop. We also have a Patreon at patreon.com/popculturist. Helps funds a lot of these things. Take the ease off the family. It's really good. And as we mentioned, we stream every Wednesday for the video games here on YouTube and Twitch. And Monday we also have our PlayStation show for those of you that may be new, like Crossfire was earlier.
And if you want to get on to the road to the Oscars,
2 weeks left.
Yeah, 2 weeks next. So next week's movies are Get Out, which came out like early last year. And The Shape of Water, which came out early this year in Australia. So you might have already seen them, and it'll be a good chance to jump in and tell us what you think.
I'm pretty keen to watch Get Out.
And
So
they're probably the most entry-level movies. Good kind of not blockbuster, but genre
isn't the Shape
movies.
of Water
I'd say.
Guillermo del Toro?
Yeah, Guillermo del Toro and Jordan Peele.
Yep, from Keen and Peele.
Yep,
Keen and Peele.
Keen Peele. So one's a horror thriller with a social commentary. One is a horror thriller romance.
Oh,
with a fishman.
Oh, that's piqued my interest.
So yeah, check it out next week.
I'm Ryan Betson.
I'm Dylan Budd, and that
was a wrap. I'll just press button.
Oh yeah. So I say that, and then you go to the mouse, and then I say that was a wrap.